to order. Ms. Duncan, I know we don't have a quorum yet, but could you please still call roll call?
Yes, ma'am. Chairperson Villa-Gomez,
Here.
Mr. Dura, Mr. Fanay,
Here.
Mr. Fulton, Ms. McNeil,
Here.
Ms. Sheila, I'm sorry, Ms. Williams, Sheila Williams, Vice Chair Wilson,
Present.
and Ms. Witters.
Thank you, Ms. Duncan. Well, we do have the wonderful pleasure of having Councilperson Annette Scipio with us, and I believe she will have to leave a little early, but we would love to hear any words of wisdom, any updates that she would care to share with us today.
Thank you, Dr. Villa-Gomez, and welcome everybody. It's great to see everyone together again, and I hope this year, 2025, will be our best yet for the African American Heritage Initiative. There is so much to be done, and yet there's so much that is being done. But I just want to encourage and thank each of you for agreeing to serve, to help collect our history, to document it so that we can leave a legacy for our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, and others to come. We continue to have some of our most seniors transition without collecting their stories, and it's sort of regrettable because they have firsthand knowledge of times when times were different, very challenging, yet very profound in the things that they achieved and the things that they did. And so the keepers of the history are us. It's not those who were before us because they're going on. So we have to at least tell our own histories and get our siblings and our cousins and whoever else we know, our playmates, to tell their history. Regardless of what you did, you can't think that it was insignificant. It was significant for the times that they occurred. And we must have documentation of that, or it will be indeed lost. So I know we need a few more members, and I've got a few names here I'm going to try to recruit to be on the committee. But whatever church you're in, I'm going to charge you, if you are attending a church, if you're a member of any kind of organization, whether it's a fraternity or a sorority or a community club or neighborhood association, that legacy is important to capture. That it existed, what it did, and what it does. And the members of those organizations, their histories should be captured. So if each of you would just reach out to those that you know right now, and even for those family members who've gone on to heaven, your memories of them can be a very rich story. And we all knew where we grew up. Yeah, there are some things we don't want to remember because we don't think it was so pleasant, but whatever it was significant and meaningful, if nothing more, that it got to you to where you are today, for good or bad. So I hope that each person on the committee will give your own personal stories about living in Winston-Salem, however long it is. Today, 2025, is the history of tomorrow. History we never documented. We can start right now documenting where we are today. Our city is changing. There are structures here that weren't here before. So There's always something we can chat about, write about. And one of the things that I do know is a lot of people left their histories with other projects, and just trying to link those stories to our website is going to be a challenge also, but it can be done. But I go back. Make sure your church's history is in our database. Make sure your sorority, fraternity, your civic club, your neighborhood club's history is in our database. That will enrich it. And the more that we put in there, the more the word to get out that people need to contribute to it. And I appreciate all of you who have decided to share in this journey. And we will, let's make 2025 an exceptional year of building that database. And I appreciate you all very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilperson Scipio. I love that you brought up the churches because that's what's really been on my heart. And Mr. Finet and I can share a little bit about an invitation that we had not so long ago. But I'm not being objective because I am trained as a church historian, but growing up in the Black church back home in San Diego, and then just learning about and hearing so much about what's happened in our city in the Black churches. And then just watching Mr. Finet as he interviews people, and as I've interviewed people in the past, usually the discussions and the history, the stories that are shared will go back to the church somehow, which I love. So, if we can get church histories, if we can get as many stories about people, how they grew up in a particular church, that's going to be a very rich database that scholars and people in the community can come back and look at, because there's some scholarly works out there that will talk about the church buildings, our Black church buildings, but not about the culture in the churches and what happened in the churches. And so all of our stories are precious in the everyday life. That's something Councilperson Scipio has been saying now for 5 years when she goes and talks to people in the community and our elders. It's your everyday life, what you experienced walking to school as a child, and your first job, whatever it was. If you were a maid, or you cut hair, or you were a dentist, no matter what your profession, those stories, those labor stories are so precious, and they bind us together in everyday life. Our Black community here locally has such a precious and unique story. And then there are, of course, many things that connect us to other Black communities, but we really do want to preserve. And I know a few of us have lost precious loved ones. I lost my mother at the end of November, and I've been thinking back about the stories that she's shared with me about growing up, before she had me, and those are really precious. So I would just encourage you. Actually, that was my fourth item for my report, just to really invite you all to work with us. Miss Annette has shared some beautiful stories. Last spring at the We Built This, she was part of our whole session on churches, and so what she shared in a kind of community storytelling event, that's all been recorded, and I think it's either posted or Mr. Flynn will post soon. So I believe we lost Councilperson Scipio. She has another meeting, but I think we can move now. I'll go quickly through, and I'll also ask Mr. Finet to report. So I believe it might have been just before our October meeting or after, just after. It was definitely before November that Mr. Finet and Mr. Dura um, basically interviewed one another, and I was at that session. I think it might have gone on for 3 hours altogether, and there were some wonderful, rich stories. Mr. Finet has been recruiting people right and left, and he did also interview one of his closest friends. Um, uh, Earlier in the fall. So, Mr. Finet, do you want to just give a little summary of what happened when you and Mr. Dura interviewed one another, and then any suggestions that you might have, because you have been very, very active in spreading the word about our project.
Well, can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, good. I'm so thankful for this opportunity to serve on the commission. The excitement just kept me bubbling as much as I ever been about anything in life. And so the opportunity presented itself to interview not only some classmates, but Mr. Dura, whose mother and father were instrumental teachers and devoted community workers as well. And so it was a delight to talk to Bobby, if I can call him by his first name. Let's say we have history. And so it was a delight to hear his story and how he come up in Winston-Salem. Other things were interviewing Mr. Rudy Hill, who lives in my neighborhood, I think you call it Washington Park community, and the experiences that he shared with his father and mother, and their interaction with the white communities proved to be an invaluable input into what we are considering as an initiative to go down in archives. His mother worked for McLean Trucking Company employees doing their laundry for 10 cents a shirt, and she would do 50 shirts a day and things like that. And moving along, well, we had an interview with the local radio station, local Christian radio station, and they were so delighted that they played it over the Christmas holidays when they had some downtime. Of course, they tried to get to us again, but they called us at the last minute, and we couldn't schedule anything. So we're still on the hot seat for those radio station, also radio station in Greensboro. I think it's a 97. I'm not sure what they call letters are, but we're trying to set up an appointment for that. I thank Dr. Villa Gomez for her input into the situation, because we need credibility, credentials. So far, when I try to interview potential suspects, excuse me, prospects, they're not sure about the information and how it's going to be used. So I would suggest that we develop credentials to the point where people know, well, this is not some fly by night. There's been some duplication of the idea, and we know there'll be some parallels as well. People who want to do historical residents in Winston-Salem. It's a lot of history, and I've encountered folks who wasn't quite sure how their position. I interviewed a young man about 2 weeks ago. He was in that class from Paisley High School, and class of 1964. And come to find out we had so many mutual friends that we could talk to and refer to about. But he had mentioned that his family had worked for the Reynolds family, and that they had already presented some interviews. They didn't know what it was about. Well, I didn't know what it was about, but they was concerned that things were being duplicated, and they didn't think that they needed to do it anymore. So those are some of the blockages and obstacles we're running into, and I think it's because there's not enough publicity and marketing for the group. I know it's been 5 years, but people still don't know who we are and what we represent, and that has to be something we need to address. And I'll just end it with that.
Thank you, Mr. Finet. Yes, and particularly for our newer members, such as Ms. McNeil, I think, you know, we had to kind of retreat from the community. All of us did during COVID. One way we kept the project going, the initiative going, was to work intensely with WSSU students. WSSU is our formal cultural institution partner. So that allows AAHI to officially post any of our documents, our photos, or our oral histories on the digital NC website. And you know, beyond collecting the oral histories and the memorabilia and documents that people from the community want to share, there was the reparations initiative that was approved by the mayor and city council probably about close to 4 years ago, where AAHI was charged with also eventually writing the official history of African Americans in Winston-Salem from about the period of Jim Crow through the early civil rights movement up through the early 1970s. So I had lots and lots of students involved in sort of writing storyboards and doing research and kind of collecting the data that's already out there, such as the little PDF histories on various Black sites, including churches and schools that the Historic Resources Commission has put out. And that whole project was initiated by one of our former members years ago, and Miss Annette Wilson has served as our liaison with the Historic Markers Committee, and so that's been wonderful. And those are the students were surprised that those were out there. There was a privileging of Black places and spaces for the city and the county, which I thought was wonderful. That officials, white and black and white, made that decision to privilege the commemoration of Black spaces in our city before any others. And I think that is a special and unique situation. So I have lots of data, but it's going to take more than one person to write that long history. And so I just want to sort of put that back out there, that a lot of work has been done, but we haven't pulled all that information together. And I don't know, in my rotation on the committee will end probably sometime in the fall. But I'd be happy to stay on and continue to help with that. But these oral histories that we want to collect, and the photos, the documents that people want to share, that's all the rich, direct, primary evidence that we can use to write up our history in a really captivating and memorable and significant way, to to tell people and to share with people what happened, all of the rich and wonderful experiences and the contributions, because the city wants to really have that history emphasize, underscore the contributions of our Black community members over the decades, and the resilience of our community in the wake of all the obstacles, the racism, and all the obstacles. So I want to remind everybody that we also have that charge. Work has been done there, but we pivoted back as we came out of COVID. We pivoted back to our original charge and goals, which include the collection of these oral histories. And I think we need to remember, as Councilperson Scipio mentioned, there have been a lot of other regional groups and local groups that have collected oral histories. They've done a focused oral history project, but not all of them make that material available. And if those groups go away, then all of that data falls by the wayside. All those precious stories, all those precious recordings and documents and photos, they fall by the wayside. So we don't want to see ourselves. This is something Councilperson Scipio and I have discussed several times. We want to support all the groups that are doing comparable work out there and partner with them. And as much as we can then use our position officially within the city and our access to a digital NC, if we partner with them and sponsor them, then they can still have their independent websites and so forth and so on. But we can then also feed what they've collected in. But there are lots of projects out there where our elders have participated, and then they haven't been able to ever see, and their families and friends haven't been able to see the fruit of how they participated and contributed. Whereas this project that we have will never go away. And I think it's making this statement from the official local government perspective of reparative justice. And all of what we have will be easily accessible as long as people can get to a computer. I did want to also call on Miss Annette Wilson, because she has been networking behind the scenes. She's one of our original commissioners, and she helped so much in the preparations, the organization for the We Built This Black Architects and Builders project last spring. And then she really was at the forefront of our storytelling, and especially I think for the benefit of Miss McNeil, could you please, Miss Annette, just talk about how, as you spoke last spring to the community members at our session, how the stories and the memories kept pouring out, and you were able to then give more and more detail, and everybody was just captivated by what you were sharing. But could you just summarize a little bit about that experience for you?
Sure, thank you, Chairman Gomez. I think the obstacle for a lot of people is that they don't believe their story is important. And so, in order to overcome that, we just have to give them an opportunity to engage. So, I think if we could focus probably on just reaching out to some people that we know well and are comfortable with us, just because of the relationships we already have, and maybe put them in a combined setting where we talk about our experiences, that might be a good way for us to start. Because once I started talking in that group, the things that I just took for granted or didn't think were important I realized really had value. So maybe if we just start out on a personal level by inviting one or two people to sit down with us, letting them know that they're going to be recorded, telling them why we're doing it, that may be a way to get our momentum because I've made the announcements lots of times in different settings that I've been in, but people just don't follow through or, step up and say, well, yeah, I'll do that. So maybe a more personable approach is what we need.
Thank you, Miss Annette. And we, especially for Miss McNeil, we have various ways that we could record people. So we received recording equipment through a grant from the Winston-Salem Foundation a few years ago that came with our collaboration on the Undesign the Red Line exhibit that came through. Miss Annette was active in that. Our former member Linda Dark, myself, we helped with the planning, and that gave us that gave AHI some good exposure as well. And so because of that equipment, we can always go as a team out to record people, especially elders who might not be, they might be housebound. The other way is to connect with me, and we have a wonderful media lab now. Came from Adobe money in the O'Kelly Library, and Mr. Finney was there when he was in that recording studio when he recorded his interview with his friend Rudy. Mr. Finney has offered to serve as the interviewer, as a formal interviewer. He has a wonderful presence, and he studied history at WSSU too, so he knows how to ask wonderful leading questions that will encourage someone to sort of tell their history in a historical way. And so he listens, and then he'll ask a new question to get them to sort of encourage them to move in a certain direction. And so I really do think each of you here, you've all grown up here, you have such rich stories. And I think the thing to think about is to do an oral history with us where it's focused. So you might, you could do several. So we could, bring you in, and myself or Mr. Finney or any one of you who would want to be the interviewer could ask you about your church experiences or your elementary school experiences or your college experience, or the neighborhood you grew up in. So we would keep you focused, and you don't have to share it all in one day. You could come back, and Mr. Flynn is quite flexible, and so am I. And, so we have a team to support each one of you. If you yourself want to give your story, and then if you are able to have people that agree. So I really hope and I pray that we will be able to get all of you to give more stories and have you network. If there's a church meeting, we could go there and bring our equipment. If there's a group meeting, we could do that as well. And so please be really thinking about this, because we want to build this archive. And if the folks that are in their 80s and 90s, that we may not have the blessing of their company here with us much longer. Those are the folks we really, really want to prioritize and privilege and really respect, because elders do love to share their stories. And so let's see how we can move forward in that way, in these ways. So thank you, Mr. Finet and Miss Annette, for sharing. I definitely want to give one of our newest members, Miss McNeil, time to sort of add or ask questions, make suggestions. But maybe I'll go through my whole report, and then we'll have a little bit of time at the very end for a discussion on this. So I'll be brief about my next few items. I just want to announce that we have 5 WSSU public history major interns this semester. One, Mr. Glenn Hurd, he's a pretty seasoned intern now. He's been with us for several semesters. He will graduate next fall, and he was very active in the We Built This project. But we have a young lady, Keisha Glenn, who is especially interested in the oral histories of our Black community. And she plans to go on and do her master's in museum studies and public history at UNCG. And so I would like to sort of get her involved with all of you as much as possible, because this is what she wants to do for the long term. She's a wonderful young woman. She actually has college age teenagers and young adult children of her own. One of her children actually studies history, and so she's returned to WSSU to finish her degree, and she's just brilliant and wonderful and very mature, and so she would be an ideal intern for all of you to work with. I would love for her to work with you. I should also say that over the last few months, I've been continuing to diplomatically, gently carry on discussions with folks in our various public library branches. I'm still waiting to hear back from the Central Library. I have tried to organize with the folks in the North Carolina room a standing monthly meeting where we would go there and share and really publicize who we are and set up equipment to record people. We were working with the Malloy Jordan East Winston Heritage Center branch, but the wonderful supervisor there, Miss Rudy, has left, and so they're sort of in an interim situation. And then I reached out to the director of the Carver School Road Branch Library, which you all, I'm sure, know. It's the second oldest historically Black public library in our area. And so the director there actually is also in charge of adult programming, and he told me that several Black fraternities and sororities and other groups have monthly meetings there, standing meetings. So he's very, very interested in supporting us. And so I'll keep you posted on that. And if you have ideas about how to work with libraries, or you have any suggestions about any other places out in the community that would be appropriate as a kind of monthly venue for us to go and meet people, share about our project, and do our recordings, please let me know. Then one or two last items. The Mapping Prejudice project that we approved to support is moving along very well now. Miss Annette and I were going to meet with Miss Linda Dark as well to discuss their church's hosting Mapping Prejudice deed review sessions. But then my mama got sick. So I'm going to pick up the discussion with them soon. But we are scheduled to have our first community meeting we're going to have standing meetings for these deed reviews, looking at the local deeds. We have 5,000 of them that have the racist restrictive language in the property deeds. And so we have our interns working on it. We have a mix of students from WSSU and Wake Forest, lots of organizations, of course, our group, I think Historic Resources Commission, lots of city and county government groups, and some churches now are interested. Centenary Methodist downtown will be hosting. And so you're welcome to come to any of those sessions. You can sign up online, but we have been told, various groups have approached us, and the outcome of this 3-year project may lead to funding for actual fair housing projects downtown. And so there is this major reparative justice focus. So it's not only a heritage project, it is something bigger that could really change and improve the lives of people in our community. Lastly, Dr. Christian and I were approached by Michelle McCullough from Historic Resources Commission, and because Miss Annette is rotating out of our commission along with me and Mr. Dura at some point this year, she has been our point person for the Historic Recognition Committee, and so we've been asked to approve to vote in another. But since we don't have a quorum, I think we need to just table that. Dr. Christian might have an update. Do you, sir, have an update from the Historic Resources Commission about this committee rep? No, okay. All right, well, thank you all. So those are my items to discuss. So I think we have department and city staff updates.
Thank you, Dr. Chair.
Thank you.
You are welcome. I do not have any additional updates regarding the position, that particular position. However, I would like to share with everyone that we do have upcoming our Martin Luther King Helping Hands event that we sponsor each year, where we have a number of our city employees go out to various organizations within the community and serve as a part of those organizations for a number of hours. That is actually taking place this Friday. We also have, during this month, the 20th of this month, we are having our Student Human Relations Banquet on the 20th of this month as well. So we're looking forward to those events as they are quickly approaching. And lastly, I have made contact and spoke to Ms. Barnes regarding the vacancies or upcoming vacancies for the AAHI. So we are working with her on those. And that is all that I have for you all today.
Thank you, Dr. Christian.
You're welcome.
Are there any city or staff updates?
I just have one add-on. Good afternoon, everyone. Part of what our department does, we do non-discrimination ordinances, and we try to get information about what those are and what it means to be discriminated in public space. And we also investigate those. We are filming a commercial on Friday, February 28th from 10 to noon, and we will send you this flyer. And so we are looking for people to be in that commercial. And we're looking for people of all ages. We're looking for children. We're looking for middle age. We're looking for elders. We're looking for people of different ethnic backgrounds. We're looking for a variety of people. So if you are interested or you know someone who might be interested, we would love to have you, and we will send you that information so that you can have sign up, or if you have any questions. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Erica. Happy New Year. I'm so glad you're here with us. I will make that announcement. I'll be meeting with our interns on Friday, so a few of them might be interested. Yeah, they might be able to talk a little bit about, you know, how they're very honored to be aligned to the work and the mission of AHI. So I'll let you know. Thank you.
Well, I'll send you the flyer, and if they're interested, they can sign up.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you. So we'll have a few minutes for open discussion, but I do want to just remind everybody of our next meeting. So our March meeting will be on Wednesday, March 5th. So I believe we're keeping the meeting on Zoom for now, and we're keeping it on Wednesdays at 2. So Wednesday, March 5th will be our next meeting. And hopefully we will have a quorum. But this is our time to really just have an open discussion, suggestions, questions, especially Ms. McNeil. If you have any questions or suggestions for us of how we can support you, we're here for you.
Thanks so much for that. Actually, I'm really excited about being a part of the initiative. In 2017, I met Michelle McCullough, and this is when I was doing stuff. I'm a resident leader for the community I live in, which, by the way, I'm gonna have to brag a little bit. I grew up and live in one of the oldest Black communities in Winston-Salem, which is Castle Heights. I'm also a member of Swing by Swing Social Fellowship Incorporated that was discovered at Winston-Salem State University in 1969. I'm also a member of one of the oldest Methodist churches in Winston-Salem, St. Paul United Methodist Church. So I have a lot of history. I've been a part of a lot of history in Winston-Salem. I will say this: in July of this year, Michelle McCullough came to our neighborhood association meeting and spoke with some of the residents of Castle Heights. These were the children. Castle Heights is a really special community, and we have a Facebook page. And what's really crazy is that pretty much the only people on that page are people that grew up in Castle Heights. They grew up in Castle Heights, and they still live in Castle Heights. We have homes which we call legacy homes. These are children of the parents who purchased homes in Castle Heights. You talked about those residents in their 80s and 90s. You're talking about my parents. My parents are 89. They will turn 90 in May and June. I would love for my parents to be interviewed. I would love that. We moved in Castle Heights in 1963. They decided not to move. Instead of moving, they just added on. So Castle Heights is a really special community. Again, we've got kids that grew up in the neighborhood, in the community, that are now homeowners. They live in the houses that their parents bought. So we did a little bit of an interview with Michelle in July. So I would love to do that. I would love to have the history made about Castle Heights because I always felt like Castle Heights is really special. And I did not know until I met Michelle that we were even on the radar. She said they were doing a study of our community, and I didn't even know that. And when she said that, I was like, "Oh my God!" So we're really excited about what's happening, and I'm really excited about being a part of this commission. I really am. When I got a chance to be part of the City of Winston-Salem University, and I went through when we went through the tour of Winston-Salem, when Michelle did the tour of Winston-Salem with us, I said, you know what? I want to know more. I want to know more about the city that I have lived in all my life, except for the 4 years I went away to school. But I want to know more about Winston-Salem. I think that it's important that my kids and my grandchildren have the knowledge of Winston-Salem and how important it is. So I'm excited, and whatever I can do to make the commission even better, that's what I want to do. But as far as helping me is concerned, I would definitely be reaching out because I would love for the elders in Castle Heights to be interviewed. Some of them can't leave the house. So I would love to have them interviewed. Somebody come with me or whatever we need to do. My neighborhood association meets the fourth Tuesday of each month. Usually all I do is if I put that information out there, of what the plan is, then I can get participants. Because that's what we did with Michelle. We had about 8 to 10 people that showed up. So yeah, I'm excited.
Ms. Kimberly, this is really, really encouraging, exciting. There's been a lot of focus on the Happy Hill community, and I think Boston Thurman community had a historic marker put up a few years back. Miss Annette and I were there for that wonderful event. The neighborhoods is one of our collection themed areas. And so it would be great if we could really develop an archive. And when you have so many people, as you've mentioned, that have lived there and you have continuous, intergenerational family history, and that's incredible. So we'll definitely support you there and do what we can. We love your enthusiasm. As you know, Miss Annette and I will definitely be rotating out at some point this year. So we need to be, as a committee, as a commission, thinking about who will take over as executive chair, who will take over as vice chair. And I'm not going to go away. I'll be supporting the commission's work behind the scenes. But I'd be really happy to talk to you. I'm sure Miss Annette as well. And you might be the one who would be perfect to fill this position, where you would be our rep for that historic recognition committee, part of historic resources. So given that you know Michelle so well, that would be perfect. So we'll see what happens when we move forward next month. But this is wonderful. I'd love to be part of that interview where you talk about St. Paul's. I've read a lot about St. Paul's, so that's wonderful. So thank you so much, and love your enthusiasm. You're an answer to prayer. We've been praying. We need enthusiastic people. Are there any other comments, suggestions? We have about 3 minutes before we hit 3 o'clock. Miss Annette, Mr. Finney, any last thoughts?
I think
None on my end. I just want to encourage everybody to stay focused and stay with it.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone. It was a joy and blessing to be with all of you. I missed you all. I'm excited about this year. Praying that we can all be used to move our project, our initiative forward in some wonderful new ways this year. Please take good care. Please email me or call me or text me if I can be of help in any way. And hopefully if you can sign up for a Mapping Prejudice session, maybe I should send the link out to the committee. I'll try to send an email with the link, since we are formal. We're a formal support group for this project. But take good care, and I will see you back here next month on March 5th. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.